Okay, and we are ready. Everyone, thank you for joining us here at the Colorado Wine Fest. We are the Modern Eater, iHeartRadio, every Saturday night, and you can check us out online as well. But we are here at the Wine Fest demo stage with Western Colorado Community College chefs, and this is one of the graduates. And I'm really happy to introduce here with us Chef Joe Shero, and he is the head chef, the executive chef at the Powderhorn Resort. And Chef Joe, thanks for coming here. What are you going to be doing today?
Absolutely. Glad to be here. We're going to make a peach risotto. I believe they said a little bit earlier. So lucky to be in this valley in Palisade in the Grand Junction area. Powderhorn Mountain Resort is a mountain resort that's on this big mountain you can't see behind the gazebo. Right up there on top of the mesa. It's about 45 minutes away. And every day I live in Grand Junction, I drive through Palisade, and I'm like, wow, there's corn, there's peaches, there's fresh fruits and vegetables. There's just so much great produce and stuff out here. And also wineries. So we're going to make some peach risotto. We're going to use some local peaches from McLean's Farm. We're going to use some local wines. We've got a Riesling wine from Talon that we're going to use to finish our risotto with, and then also a peach wine that we're going to mix to make our broth. So it should be pretty good stuff.
Sounds really exciting. So we've got two different kinds of local wines with local peaches and a corn risotto.
Peach risotto.
Peach risotto, okay.
Peach risotto.
So peach and corn. No.
So it was going to be peach or corn risotto, and I'm going to ask you all this a little bit later on, but risotto is one of these amazing dishes that you can make sweet, you can make savory. It runs the gauntlet, which makes it such an amazing dish. And so we're going to do a sweet one with peaches today.
Chef, so does everyone know, is a risotto a rice or is it a pasta? Do you know?
So risotto is a rice, grain family. Yep. But it's such a good different cooking technique. Really, what it comes down to is risotto is the technique of making this rice like they make in Northern Italy, where you're slowly introducing liquid and a broth, and the same thing to that, and that makes it this amazing dish.
So very interesting. I don't know, folks, if you heard that in the back. Risotto is a rice. And is it something for gluten-free people, I've heard?
So one of my favorite parts about the dish we're going to make today, today's dish is going to be gluten-free, even though it's got some great crunchy stuff on it. And then along with that, it could be made very easily vegan. If you've got some friends or family, anyone like that's following the vegan path and gluten-free, this dish would fit both of those things, and you would love it no matter what. So if I didn't tell you it was gluten-free and vegan, you'd be like, wow, this is just plain delicious. You'd never think about it. So
this sounds exciting. Well, we'll let you jump right in and start prepping this.
All right, thank you.
So we can get going.
Awesome.
And we have cameras on it, folks. So if you're in the back, there are cameras definitely on the stove and on the table, so you should be able to see everything on the TVs in the back. And if there's anything...
All right, so we're going to get just a couple things ready here, and then we'll start making some peach risotto with everyone.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
to your left. You have those, or do you need me?
The only one is the cutting board.
Oh, it's down there.
There's peaches.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure which ones they did. I can grab one of the sheets.
Are these yours?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about those. Those are extra. Cutting board.
Paella? That's not you, right?
Nope. Just the basil. All right, everyone, I think we've got just about everything together here. Where are all my risotto people at? Has anyone ever made risotto before? So I've got a few people. So that's awesome. Risotto, really, like I was saying earlier, it's more about a process. Risotto is born out of northern Italy in the Lombardy region. And
Yeah, I'm here for you. Let's get that thing, right? Try that out.
thank you. How's that? Is that a little better? All right, thank you guys. As big as my ears are, I thought that was going to be like the easiest part of the day. So I've got my assistant here, Sarah Foster. Sarah works up the distillery at up in Palisade. They've got a cool trolley out there making lots of pizzas and stuff like that for anyone that's going to stop by a little later if your Wine Fest drinking part is not done. But so one of the keys to risotto is that once you start, you don't really want to stop. So the hardest part about risotto is making sure that you've got all of your mise together. So mise en place is a French term in cooking that we use a lot, and it means everything in its place. So you want to make sure that you've got everything in its place before you really start, because once we get to that stove, we're not going to want to stop. It's one of the funnest meals, I like to think, because you can have a lot of conversation while you're making it. So if you've got some recipes,
Oh, do
you
we
know where
have
the
a
recipes
risotto
went?
recipe out here?
so I've got two recipes that I'm going to share with everyone today. The first one is going to be for these Amaretti cookies. So this is an almond cookie. That's an Italian almond cookie. It's got a whopping 5 ingredients in it. If you read the recipe, it says, oh my gosh, you need some crazy special tools. I'm going to tell you that you don't. It's the funnest thing in the world. You just get a bowl in front of you, put all those things together, slap them together, make these great cookies that are also gluten-free. So you've got your rice that was gluten-free to begin with. You're going to stay that same track, and we're going to keep it gluten-free. So we've got some coconut milk. Coconut milk is kind of a fun substitute when you're making risottos, rices, cream sauces, all those different things, because it also is gluten-free and vegan-friendly. And then we've got some St. Catherine's peach wine. So believe it or not, this will be the 4th time this week, I think, I've made risotto. One of the funnest parts about risotto is that, like I said earlier, you can do so many different things with it. But it can be savory, it can be sweet, and I played with just the broth. 4 different variances of the broth this week to see which one. I knew I wanted to do peach because they've got the most amazing peaches in season right now in Palisade. So I knew we wanted to do peach, and then to really find a broth that worked, I tried a few different ones. Coconut milk and St. Catherine's peach wine is what brought me to where I wanted to be. So we are going to grab a pot. One of the first tips I'll give everyone about making a risotto is that you want to have a hot broth. What we're going to do throughout the entire time of this process is introduce the broth, which is pretty much all of the flavor, into our rice. And we want it to be nice and warm because as we introduce it to the pot, we don't want to start off with this cold liquid every time because it's going to change the way our rice is cooking because we're going to already have it in process. So I've got, if you take a look at your recipes there, that should be broken down for double the people. And it is gonna take this whole bottle of wine. And the only thing that makes me sad about that is normally when I'm making risotto, I think what we said earlier was it's kind of like social hour. It takes about 20 to 35 minutes to make risotto. And once we get it on here, we just want to, you're going to have some time to converse. So
what that gives us time for is there'll be another wine pairing in the middle of this in the middle of this demo. But chef, you're doing something really unique that a lot of people, I haven't seen a lot of chefs do. Most chefs will start it with just a broth, but your broth, it looks like you've got some cream in it as well.
So that's going to be the coconut milk that we just added. And one of the conversations, so risotto, like I said, so there's so many different things that people say, oh, risotto, it's forever to make, it takes too long. This is like one of those amazing 30 meals in one pot or two pots. This is like the dream meal, and really, you can do so much with it. So a lot of people say, all right, well, you put a broth in there. So you can put in chicken broth, you can put in vegetable broth, you can use stock. So one of my favorite risottos is a pineapple risotto, and it uses pineapple juice, and it uses that same creamy coconut milk, which is nice. And then we'll finish it with some butter, which keeps with that whole cream consistency. But you can use any variation of broth to make a different risotto. So a lot of people are familiar with eating steamed rice. We all eat that all the time. We have Chinese food, Vietnamese food, all kinds of different things. We get our rice with it. In northern Italy, this is their main carb. This is their starch. This is what they're eating, a few times a week or time a week at least. It's not a special meal. This is just how they make their rice. And the funnest part about that is you can make Parmesan and mushroom rice one night, and you can make peach risotto the next. So, yeah.
Nice. Thank you, chef.
All right, so like we were saying, we want to keep everything kind of moving. So Sarah's going to work on one pot of risotto, and I'm going to work on another. One of the reasons for that is just to kind of make enough samples for everyone to have. One of the nice parts when you're making a risotto is you want as much pan space as you can. So sometimes you'll make it in a frying pan or a pot. Either one of those is going to be fine. You can go with it either which way. But you just want to have enough cooking service that you're not tying things down too much. So before we head over to the pots, we're going to cut our peaches. And all we're going to do with these is cut these down into thin slices of peaches. And we're going to cut those slices in half. And then we'll add that to the risotto. We'll use part of that as a garnish. And then we also have these amaretti cookies. So I made these, I actually made a lot of these this morning. Like I said before, it's gluten-free. And that gluten-free cookie, it's almond flour. There's a recipe up here for that as well, but it's almond flour, powdered sugar, a few egg whites, vanilla. I like to use a little vanilla. So I think it said like a tablespoon of vanilla. If you've got some vanilla, you just pour a little vanilla in there. And then some almond extract because it's, a good, strong almond cookie. So we're going to cut that up. That's going to be part of the garnish. We've got our broth back here kind of heating up. So we're going to keep stirring that a little bit and let that stay warm for us. And then we're going to start on the risotto. And we'll add those liquids.
Hey, chef, you have your one of your helpers here is cutting the peaches, and I noticed these stones are coming very free from the peach really easily. Does anyone know what that's called? I gave you part of the name already. Is anyone familiar with what a freestone peach is? And it's not, there's a lot of confusion about what a freestone peach means, but do you see how that pit just came out of the peach so easily? That happens when the peach is picked riper. And so it's one of the nice things, the peach, it was ripe. There are varieties that make it easier to pull the pit out of it. But for the most part, what it is later season when you're picking ripe peaches, you'll get a freestone, and it makes it nice and easy to process down so you can can them and preserve them for the year.
All right, so the other thing we've got here is we've got some butter, we've got some goat cheese. So a big part of risotto is in how you finish it. So the two main parts to me in a risotto is, your broth. What you're going to be cooking that rice in is going to add a whole lot of flavor to it. So We've got coconut milk, which is going to give it this nice creamy taste. And then we've got peach wine. And we're going for peach risotto, so it's going to add a little bit more peach flavor just to the rice alone and make it extra peachy for us, which I kind of like. I told everyone I tried a little bit earlier in the week. This will be my 4th risotto of the week. So I've tried almost the same recipe. I don't think we like to say anywhere in cooking that what you really do when you're finding a new recipe, it's not so much that you're like, I'm going to make this great peach risotto, but you find one recipe that you love and you doctor it up a little bit, or you find 6 recipes that you love and you just kind of marry a few of them together until it comes out the way you like it. That's what I did with this one, is I took about 3 different recipes and said, well, I like that part and I like that part. But with risotto, you can do just about anything.
So, Chef, I've got an interesting question for you. You mentioned that risotto is about a 25-minute dish from start to finish. How do you do that when you're in a big kitchen and you get 5 or 10 people that all order risotto at the same time?
So it kind of comes back to a question that was asked earlier. One of the things you can do with risotto is you can par cook it. So we cook it to a certain point, and that way when the order comes in, you've got it pretty well started, the rice is cooked to a certain point, and then you're just finishing it with the last of that broth and that last bit of flavor.
So that might be for someone at home if you're throwing a big dinner party and you want everyone to be able to eat at a good time. You might prep it a little before during the day. But you said it's hard, though, because you really don't want to stop it in that process. So you really have to be careful with that, I'm sure.
Once you start it, it's kind of hard to stop it. And so we're going to do small portions for everyone here today, and I'm sure there's going to be enough to go around. But this is one of those kind of meals where I like to keep it to like 4 to 6 people. So if you at home, if you're go challenge your date or someone to make you some risotto, or challenge yourself to go make some risotto for them. This is like one of those amazing, fantastic social meals where you've got all your stuff in place, so you're gonna have to sit there and stir for 25 minutes. So pour yourself a glass of wine, pour your partner wine, and talk and stir some rice and make this amazing meal. Is kind of what I say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to try this. There's a lot of great ingredients up here.
So with this risotto, a lot of the best parts of this risotto in my mind are in the garnish. So we're going to keep the risotto itself fairly simple, in that it is butter, peach wine, a splash of Riesling, and coconut milk. And we're just going to let that cook, and we're going to keep adding our liquid. But when we're finished it, we're gonna add some peaches to it. But we're going to finish it with some more fresh peaches. We're going to finish it with some basil. We've got some of these almond cookies that we made earlier. Like I said, that's 5 ingredients. It takes about 4 minutes to whip it all together and 30 minutes in the oven. And those are the amaretto cookies. So it's an almond cookie. I was going to have a really tough time finding that in Junction, I think, any type of amaretto cookies. And I said, what do we do? Oh my gosh, it's 5 ingredients, half an hour. So you knock those out, it's really easy. One of the interesting parts about that to me when I was reading the recipe was it said that you had to have a food processor. So at Powderhorn, I think I've got 2 main kitchens, and I don't know, you could say half of a third kitchen. So I've got a few different kitchens, and I've got all kinds of equipment and food processors and all those things. I didn't have it at home when I was trying to make these almond cookies. And it dawned on me, you know what? This almond cookie recipe really probably goes back, I don't even know how many years. And my grandma, who came from Italy, probably didn't have a food processor. So you know what? I didn't have one either. I just mixed it together. It came out fantastic. And we're going to use it as a garnish on this risotto today. So if you don't have all the special tools, look at it. And if you know some of the process, think about how it goes together. Think about if it's ever been done, and see if you can still knock it out. And chances are good you can. So That is a good one.
Chef Joe, you just brought up something interesting because I did notice a lot of your cooking has sort of an Italian flair to it so far here today. Is this, you said some of this stuff was passed down from your grandmother? Or is this where you get your inspiration from?
So I have been in Western Colorado off and on for about 20 years. And originally I came from Brooklyn, New York. And I did have definitely a little Italian grandma. And cooking was everything. So, I mean, it was smelling the pot and lifting the lid and all these wonderful things. And it was really funny when I moved to Colorado. It was a different side of the family. And everyone was still nice and everything. But, boy, the first time I tried to lift that pot, woo! You weren't supposed to smell it anymore. But so a lot of the smells, I mean, the almond cookies fresh out of the oven, that's one of those things. There's a few bakeries in this valley where you can find where you'll walk into and the smell is just going to hit you. And you're going to say, oh, my gosh, all right, I'm in cookie heaven right now. I want one of everything. And there's one in Palisade. There's one out in Grand Junction. But when you can take 5 ingredients in 30 minutes and put together a cookie, and I'm a chef. I've been cooking for a while. I cook for thousands of people in the wintertime. I cook for hundreds of people and do weddings and stuff like that in the summertime. But this is literally 3 egg whites and some almond flour and some powdered sugar and a little bit of almond paste. And so it's really easy and anyone can do it. And it just adds so much. So we've got our butter heated up a little bit. And I've got that in the 2 different pans. We're gonna toast that just a little bit for a minute or so. When you're starting your risotto, one of the things you want to do is toast that rice a little bit. You don't want to over toast it, but you also want to give it a moment to get a little translucent and cook up a little bit. So we'll get that kind of going. I like to get it all coated up in the butter. Toss it around a little bit.
Chef, while you're cooking that up, can you talk a little bit about, you guys have something going on at the Powderhorn Resort next week, don't you? It's a color weekend?
Color weekend, we do. So the state of Colorado recognizes next weekend as one of the most colorful weekends across the state. And we are at an elevation at Powderhorn, 8,500 feet, and then we go up another couple thousand feet to get to the top. We do mountain biking, skiing, snowboarding, all those good things. In the summertime, well, we don't snowboard in the summertime. Weddings, snow, and mountain biking. And then next weekend, though, when the colors are at their prime, we'll also do lift tickets, barbecue, live music, all that good stuff. But it is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Is that something we need to buy tickets for, or do we just show up at the Powderhorn?
So you can show up at Powderhorn. It is a free event as far as live music and just kind of enjoying everything that's going on. And then lift tickets are $14 for a single lift ticket to get you to the top of the mountain. You can get off, hike around, check out the views, just kind of enjoy it for a little while and go from there.
Sounds like a really neat event.
Yeah, and we've got live music Saturday and Sunday. Stray Grass will be up there on Sunday. And it is usually a pretty busy event with lots going on.
So as the day goes on here, it's nice and warm. I hope everyone is enjoying all the incredible venters here. We've got venters, we've got some distillers, or brewers rather, in the world of cider. But thank you all the incredible chefs. As a quick reminder, just in case you've forgotten where you are, we are at the Colorado Mountain Wine Fest here in beautiful Paonia, Colorado.
Palisade.
Oh, Palisade. Thank you. Holy smokes. Yes, I appreciate that. Palisade. My mind is right here. You see my mind right here. My friends over at Big B's in Paonia. I'm thinking about that as I talk about the ciders because I believe they have a tent out here. There are lots of cider folks here as well as wine folks. So, but I want a big shout out to the Western Colorado Community College. That's where Chef Joe is a graduate of, as well in some of his studies for the culinary program. I want to thank all the chefs here But a big shout out to the Western Colorado Community College because they've made all this possible for us. And a little more about tonight and who I am. I'm Brian Freeman with the Modern Eater. We are a food and beverage show on iHeartRadio every Saturday night. We're broadcast all over the state on KHAL Radio, as well as you can check us out live on Facebook, and that's where this is being broadcast live right now on Facebook and YouTube. So as you've seen the cameras going around, we have a couple more events as well, and one of the things that we're going to do here shortly is we're going to bring in the food and wine pairing potentially. Why Chef Joe is finishing this. We'll see if we can get those folks over here because our next little demo is going to be a food and wine pairing from Carlson Vineyards and cherry wine and smoked salmon, chocolate truffles. And the viticulture and enology instructor Jenny is going to be back to talk about that as well. Chef, how long do you think we have until that risotto is ready?
So I would say about, so now that we've got the rice started, we're looking probably at that 25-minute mark. So we're just going to keep on
I'd like to
adding
hear
liquids
that.
to it. And
So, and one thing, folks, is if you want, there are recipes up here. We do have a recipe for the risotto. And if you got to try the ratatouille, which we ate earlier, there's also a recipe for that as well. It does look like Jenny is back. So I'm going to check on the food that's going to be paired with this, and we might get that food pairing going out a little bit faster in between. So hang tight.
No, I think actually. Chef demos. Where's the one? Are we the demo? Are we the
demo 10. We are making a peach risotto. Yeah. All right.
This one? This one?
This one.
Do you need a spatula?
Is that peach risotto?
Yeah.
Are these recipes online?
So these recipes are right up here. I believe we've got recipes up on the table.
Yes. I'm gonna grab one.
So you absolutely. So we've got the recipes for the rice. If you want to follow along, kind of see what we're doing and what we're adding in there.
Yep, there are two recipes up here. One is for the Palisade peach risotto, and one is for the ratatouille.
So we're just doing the chef demo on
Thank you. We don't, Chef. They'd like a recipe for your almond cookies. Can we check that out on your
absolutely.
website?
So that actually, we included both of those. I think both of those recipes are there.
Oh, okay. It's on. Chef, I am only seeing the risotto
Peach
recipe,
risotto.
but
Gotcha. So
we will try to get you an update on that.
Yeah. Let's see. So I'll see if I can find out if there's some copies of that one floating around. 100%. So the almond cookie recipe, I told you I made risotto like 4 times this week. The almond cookies, I made the exact same recipe that came off of, I think, all recipes, and was just those few ingredients. Probably not everyone has pens. Another interesting thing to know about risotto is the difference in amounts. So if you're making steamed rice, it's always the same kind of thing. You're making 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of liquid. When you're making risotto, it's always going to be 1 cup of rice to 2.5 to 3 cups of liquid. And then again, there's that same thing with the rice. So don't try to go at home and make this with jasmine rice or Asian rice or sticky rice or any of those. It's arborio rice, which is an Italian rice. That's the most popular one that you can find in the store. And then there's a few other rices that you can also make. But really, you're going for that long grain, extra starchy rice. The starch in the arborio rice is what helps make it so creamy and stick together and gives you that texture. So, and I don't know if you can see back there, but what we're trying to do with this is while you're making the risotto, you're going to cook all that liquid, pretty much until it's gone. So we're adding a cup at a time of liquid to each one of these pots. And then with that cup, we're stirring it. And you don't have to stir it like crazy. You just have to be there to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of your pan and you're keeping it moving. So I'm keeping this one moving, and we're just going to keep on adding this liquid a cup at a time as it is ready for it.
Whenever you can turn it over to me and we can do the pairing real quick in between
Whenever you're ready.
while you're cooking down.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, folks. The excitement just keeps rolling here because we are going to jump right into this pairing. So while Chef Joe is finishing up on the risotto, we're jumping into Carlson Vineyards cherry wine, and we're going to do a little smoked salmon with a chocolate truffle on that. And with that, I'm going to invite Jenny Baldwin-Eaton up to the stage. She is an instructor at Western Colorado Community College, the Viticulture and Enology department over there. And she's got some students with her, but she's really just a wealth of information about this incredible wine we have here in the Western Slope, as well as about how to grow it. And that's one thing I'll let Jenny tell everyone the difference and what exactly is viticulture and enology.
So viticulture and enology is really just a technical term, okay? Viticulture is the science of grape growing, and enology is the science of winemaking. So we're not trying to make it difficult. All of the colleges throughout the U.S. use the same terms, but most people do not know what that means. So, how many of you guys are repeaters from earlier? We got some repeaters, okay, some new. So the Viticulture and Enology program at the college, Western Colorado Community College, is a division of Colorado Mesa University. And this winemaking program is only about 3 years old. So we've had 6 students that have graduated. Some of them are here working in the industry. And we have about 12 to 15 students in the program right now. So we've done some different food and wine pairing principles. Kind of what we ended with last time was being open to trying new things. And that's what I'm going to really ask you to do with this next food and wine pairing. So we're going to be doing Carlson cherry wine. Everybody familiar with Carlson Vineyards? Yeah. Yes? Okay.
But cherry wine, that's not something normal. What is that?
What do you mean it's not normal? So Carlson makes their cherry wine 100% Colorado grown cherries. There's nothing else in there. They're actually just Montmorency cherries, so they have a high acidity level and a sweetness to them. And I just really love the versatility of this wine. You think of cherry wine, it's sweet, and so you think it has to go with a dessert. Now, certainly it is good with a dessert like a cheesecake or maybe pound cake. But I'm going to have you open your minds to having cherry wine with smoked salmon. Does that sound
so
weird?
So good. So good. Yes, yes.
Carlson Vineyards!
Hey, you guys, come on up here and tell everyone. Come on. Come on up for a second. I'm sure you're tired of talking out in your booth there, but thanks for coming by because we're just about to impair something incredible. We haven't met. My name's Brian. Welcome to the show. Garrett?
I'm Kaylin. Hi.
Kaylin, nice to meet you both of you. Tell us about, we're about to try your cherry wine. Tell everyone what your thoughts are on that. Yes.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, I guess timing is everything. I thought they were talking about cherry wine in general.
Nope.
So our cherry wine's 100% Montmorency pie cherries. It's one of the wines that we've made since the very day one. So Parker and Mary Carlson founded the winery, and in 1987 they made a Riesling, peach, and a cherry, and we still make the cherry more or less the same way now. So it has great acidity. Obviously, we use Montmorency pie cherries. Has great acidity, balances the sweetness nice. But I tell everybody, like Jenny was saying, with smoked food, it's incredible.
When did you guys purchase Carlson Vineyards?
Like 2015. It's all been a blur. We had 2
I
kids
thought it
and
was
bought a winery.
2015. And how many wines do you guys make?
Too many. I think right now we're currently at about 21, I believe.
That is a lot. It really is. That means that he has to keep track of all of those things throughout fermentation. And if you're making fruit wines, then you're starting harvest a lot earlier than the rest of us usually.
Yeah. So
Mid-July. Yikes.
the downside I always say is all my counterparts are off fishing, getting ready for harvest, and we're in the middle of it. But when they all start, we're 25% done. So it's kind of nice to rub that in a little bit.
So are you guys growing everything? Are you growing everything that you use, or are you sourcing some of it from some of your partner farms?
Yeah, so we only grow about 10% of our grapes, but we buy all of our fruit, and all of our grapes are 100% Colorado grown. For the vast majority of it, it comes within about 3 or 4 miles of our winery right there. We do get half of our cherries from Hotchkiss, Colorado, though.
Now, I heard you guys are looking at some different collaborations in the coming years. Is this something I'm getting accurate information on, or?
I suppose so.
Did you lay that
Yes.
golden egg?
Yeah, we're doing all kinds of fun collaborations. One of the ones we just started doing is we collaborate with Josh from Bin 707 Taco Party. We do a couple wines for them, and then there's another collaboration coming up, but I can't remember all the details.
Is that something? I heard something about the Liberati.
Yes.
I heard you might be working with a guy named Alex Liberati.
Yes, absolutely.
From down in Denver, this is a guy who came from Italy. He's been making a special beer in Italy that uses wine as part of his process. And it's something that I was excited because we're going to be able to come out there tomorrow, I believe, and taking a look at, I'm part of the Modern Eater with Alex is traveling with us.
Yeah, okay,
So it's going to be fun.
yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Talk a little bit about you guys in the winery.
Okay. How long do you have? No, I'm just kidding.
Garrett is not shy. He will stand up here for hours. No.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I guess I went to work for Parker Carlson in 2011 and I actually told him in my interview that I was not going to run his winery for him, that I was eventually going to move back to Missouri and start my own winery. And as they say, a sucker's born every minute, and he found his. So in 2014, we agreed to purchase the winery, and then we closed officially in 2015. And like I said, Kaylin and I are both from Missouri, so we are not natives, but we have 2 little ones at home, Josephine and Madeline, and they are 3 and 5. And hopefully soon we can put child labor to work in our winery.
So that's what everybody should do, is buy a winery and have 2 kids.
There's a very big reason I found now there's a very big reason that most of the people who are either A, running, or B, starting a winery are doing it after their kids are in college or later, because they keep us hopping.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming up, y'all. Thank you. That's Carlson Winery. And we'll get to try that here real shortly.
Easter eggs. Okay. So Carlson, they got 2 wines that won the Governor's Cup collection. So cherry wine was one of those, and then their NSFW, which is a vinifera hybrid white, also made it. So they got 2 wines in that collection. I think, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are. So people are going to start walking around and filling some glasses with some samples. Yes. So hopefully everyone, you want to get out your glass.
So one thing I want to say about the wine and the food, I'm going to have you try it with 2 different things. So first, just take a small sip of the wine by itself so that you have enough left over to try it with the 2 components, okay? Don't be guzzling it all the way down.
And it looks like the salmon is also coming out right now, and that is, tell us a little, it's just a smoked salmon with a little dash of salt and a chocolate truffle.
And a chocolate truffle. So when we're trying to pair really smoky components in our food, smoked salmon, smoked oysters, when we have a wine that's sweet, that residual sugar and that smokiness really blend well together, and you're going to find that the cherry wine doesn't even seem sweet when you're trying it with the smoked salmon. Whereas when you have it with the chocolate, it has a completely different component together. Then it's dessert. But cherry wine can be a great appetizer, serving it with something smoky. Looks like everybody's giving it a try.
I know everyone's giving it a try. Do we have any thumbs up out there so far? I like this. Look at that. Look at that. And I was joking earlier, but cherry wine is something that's different and not very common. But in some countries, I think cherry wine is much more common, isn't it?
More countries and also more states. That's all they can grow.
Yeah.
They can't grow vinifera, so they start doing a lot of different fruit wines. When we have the word wine, as far as a definition, it's assumed that it's grapes that are going into it. So if we're making a fruit wine, we actually have to put the fruit name first, and that's why we refer to it as cherry wine, because it's not grapes.
It's an interesting fact, is because I think, as we saw today earlier, we have a peach wine that was
did you
going
have the
into our risotto, that he was using that as his broth with a mix of the coconut milk for his risotto. And
Oh,
so
nice. That'd be good.
Yeah, so it's really, I think what's interesting is we get older traditional wine was very old. It's been around forever. But there wasn't a lot of experimentation, I don't think, in the ways that we are experimenting today. Wouldn't that be a true fact, Jenny?
I think so, and really, experimenting and see what works, what doesn't work. That's the only way that you're going to find that you're going to learn the principles that go well together. Sometimes you have in your head that I think it's going to work. When we're picking wines for winemaker dinners, we kind of have a wide grasp of what we're going to pick, but then it comes down to trying the wine with the food. Is it going to be the perfect combination? So you got to experiment, see how it works. How many liked it with the salmon?
Nice.
How many liked it more with the chocolate?
And how many just liked it?
Just period.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, Parker he started this cherry wine, and the thing I loved about his fruit wines is they always tasted just like the fruit. This is like a cherry pie without the crust. It tastes that much like cherries. And I think when you're having a fruit wine, you should really be able to pick out that fruit completely. They do a peach wine. St. Catherine's does a peach wine, pear apple. But unfortunately, they do have to start the season way earlier, and that lengthens it out. So.
Does that change it in the fermentation process when you're using more, I would believe that the sugar content in some of these other fruits are way different from the sugar content in a grape. The Brix level is much different.
The Brix level in grapes is much higher. So a lot of times with fruit wines, you can only add one. You can only add sugar or you can add acid. And so they're typically picking the fruit early so it has nice acidity. And then they're having to add residual sugar so that the alcohol percentage ferments out a little bit higher. We want it at least around 9 at the lowest, but 10 to 11 is good for fruit wines, just for the stability of it. We want a little bit higher alcohol in there, so we got to add sugar. That's just the way it goes.
So in that, you said higher alcohol. Do fruit wines typically have a higher alcohol, or are you balancing that out?
Well, higher alcohol in that we wanted it at least at 9, maybe 10 or 11, so that it has good stability. Okay. Most grape wines are 12 to 16%
that's
alcohol.
What I was curious. Okay.
Yeah, so they are higher, but grapes have so much more sugar in them. And especially here in Colorado, we're growing grapes at a high desert climate. We're at a high elevation. There's really nobody else doing a high desert climate. And so a lot of what we have to learn is, we're dealing with the elevation and then also that really direct sunlight that's coming through. So we have a little bit thicker skins. I mean, just in general, we have thicker skins, right?
That's the ag community.
We're in Colorado. I mean, what makes wine grown in Colorado? You got to be independent, strong, work hard, But the payoffs are great. The high quality fruit that we have here is exceptional. And there actually was grapes early on in the 1800s, and they were entering wines into state fairs, and Colorado was winning top awards. It's just once Prohibition went through, all those grapes got torn out, and that's when the Palisade peach industry got its start. So it wasn't until we came back in about the late 70s that the Colorado wine industry started up again.
Well, and I think what's really interesting from the agriculture side of that is the cool nights. And a lot of people don't realize how that does affect a lot of things that grow here, especially, that's how Olay sweet corn, which is really a marketing thing, but it was all about the fact that because of the cold nights, the corn would be sweeter than most of the corn that you're used to. And that's the temperature fluctuations at night create a harder, brings the sugars out of the plant in a way that maybe a scientist would know the answer to that.
So for corn it works, but for grapes, that cooler night helps retain the acidity that we need in the grapes. And so we have much better sugar to acid balance in the finished wine with our cooler nights. But this year is turning out to be a different year. We had a really cool, wet spring. And so most of the harvest across the board, whether it was peaches or corn or grapes, they're about 2 weeks later. And we're also seeing way different acidity levels than we saw last year. So that's the thing about grapes and wine in general, is it's not just a recipe. You have your starting ingredient. It's not the same every year. Maybe the style of wine that you're going to make is going to be the same, but how you get there may be different.
That's really interesting. One of the things I'd like to ask you that I don't think is talked about as much as it should be is sort of about the terroir and how the terroir here in the Palisade region is different. I mean, really, the soil and what terroir is, folks, if you don't know, it's all about it's soil. And so the soil here is much different than it is, let's say, out in California or down in Italy or France. Could you speak to that at all?
Terroir is just a hot button subject for sure. Yes, it has to do with the soil. It also has to do with the climate. And even now they're wondering about fermentation. Where do you have fermentation terroir as far as what microbes are out in the vineyard that are doing the fermentation? But in general, when you're tasting a Colorado wine, especially a red that spends more time on the skins, there is a definite Colorado component, and it comes through as kind of a wet rock. Does everybody know what a wet rock? When it rains and you kind of get that minerality, that comes through. It's not strong per se, and it's part of the complexity of the wine, but there is that wet rock component in Colorado wines.
It's really
I'm not sure where it comes from, but...
And this year we had a lot of water that was unusual too. I mean, not as much on your side of the mountain as where I'm on the Front Range, and it really helped us out. But it did push, everything was back about 2 to 3 weeks on a lot of our crops.
Right, and here we only get about 12 inches of precipitation annually, and I think we were close to that this spring. So in the springtime, it's great to have the moisture because the vines are starting to bud out, and so it doesn't really hurt anything. It's just more the temperature being cooler in the spring delayed things, but the moisture was good.
We are so lucky, and I don't think a lot of people realize how lucky we are to have all the different unique crops that grow here in Colorado. We're known for our peaches, although when you talk to people from out of state, they don't realize how good a Colorado peach is because other states grow them. And we from Colorado, or I feel like we have the best peaches in the country, but when you talk to the Midwesterners, somebody tried to tell me Iowa has great peaches the other day, and I said, wait, come to Palisade, come over here. And one thing that's really interesting is the growers out here, because I know a lot of Palisade growers down to the Paonia growers, and they are very proud here. And you really, you have like 5 big families here in Palisade, that really have been growing most of the peaches, or they're the families that market the peaches, is what I should say. And it's really just like 5 big families, whereas you go down over into Hotchkiss and Paonia and you have a lot of little farmers over there, a lot much smaller orchards than you have here in Palisade. And I just think we're so lucky because we really have just a really diverse ability to grow here in Colorado that most don't have.
We do. And we are a proud bunch. It takes a lot of work as a farmer, but it truly was the peach industry. There was probably 6 growers that were in the early 80s looking to diversify peaches. They had back-to-back freeze events, and they were losing like 100 acres of peaches in Colorado annually. So they were looking for a different fruit to help diversify their crops. They didn't want to pull out all the peaches, but they wanted something else that if they got a spring frost, grapes are later, and so they wouldn't be affected by that spring frost. So it was these 6 growers that came together with CSU, funds from the Four Corners, and they planted those first grapes in the early 80s. So I give them a thumbs up for trying. That first year, all the vines died because they shipped, the nursery shipped them out and they dried. Well, we're a high desert climate, it just didn't work. And we know that with desiccation, if the vines are dry, if they don't have enough soil moisture, they're not going to survive our winters here. So hats off to them. They replanted the next year, and it was the peach growers that started that industry at that time. So.
Well, another interesting fact is that we used to do a lot of Rieslings in the Western Slope, didn't we? Much more, and it wasn't a very popular wine necessarily. And
another hot button.
Yeah,
Terroir, Riesling. Riesling plantings they've gone up and down. Riesling sales, Riesling was tracking. It was doing really well, so everybody started planting more Riesling. And then all of a sudden, rosé is the belle of the ball, so to speak. And now we have all this acreage of Riesling. So we're going to have to get a little creative. But Riesling grows great here. I love it because it grows here in the Grand Valley and it grows down in the West Elks AVA. So our 2 main growing regions, and they're just 2 different types of wine. I think it would go really well with this risotto with peaches, yes.
Well, and Jenny, can you graft wine vines or grape vines here?
You can.
Is anyone familiar with what grafting is? Does anyone know what that is? Okay, well, we'll tell you.
You're so the original vines that we've planted in here in Colorado have all been self-rooted vinifera. So vinifera is our European variety, the most common, and it's on its own roots. Now, in 2016, we discovered phylloxera in the area. And that is primarily why people plant on grafted vines. And that's where they take a rootstock of usually a Native American rootstock that is susceptible or tolerant to phylloxera, and then you graft vinifera on top of that. So you have a graft union, basically, that has to be just above the soil. So the reason we didn't start planting those was because we were afraid that the graft union would freeze in our winters. And so now what we're trying to do is trials, and we have to put the soil up and cover that graft union and then uncover it in the springtime. But there's a lot of other hybrids out there that we've started dealing with. They're called cold hardy cultivars, and we had a back-to-back freeze event in 13 and 14, and a lot of vinifera froze to the ground. So that got us trialing on cold hardy cultivars, stuff that was hybrids from Minnesota, Wisconsin, New York, and we're just trying that. We do a lot of trial and error here, and we usually do things about 2 or 3 times, just in general. You don't get it right the first time, so you do it again, and that's why we're independent, strong, proud.
I love that. And folks, I want to give a huge thank you to Jenny, because Jenny Baldwin-Eaton has been here all day giving us all kinds of information. She's manning a tent, so thank you, Jenny.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And and if you live up here, you can always check out Western Colorado Community College and take one of Jenny's classes. She teaches a class there on viticulture and enology, and so check it out.
Yeah, you don't have to take the whole associate's or certificate. You could just come take a class. We have sensory analysis. We've got winemaking classes, fermentation science. So if you find that interesting, come join us.
Thank you so much,
You bet.
Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, and we're here at the Colorado Mountain Wine Fest at the Wine Fest demo stage with Western Colorado Community College graduate Chef Joe from Powderhorn Mountain Resort. He's going to bring us back into the risotto because it looks like it's almost ready to come out to you, so you get to try this incredible risotto. Let's remind everyone, Chef Joe, what risotto are they going to be about to eat?
All right, everyone. So we've got the peach risotto getting ready to come out. I think some of it is making its way out there as we speak. So we've got a peach risotto made with, it's gluten-free. It is made with a peach wine from St. Catherine Cellars. So we did a half mixture of that with our broth along with coconut milk. And then we finished it with a little bit of Talon Riesling. And it's just a little sweet to go with your sweet, to keep sweetening things up. I think I heard earlier Jenny was talking about, not mixing your bitter wines with green olives because it's just a bad idea. So we've added a little sweetness. So we've got some of these coming out, and I think, as I said earlier, one of the magic parts about this is the garnish. And the garnish is those fresh Palisade peaches from McLean's Farm, basil, and then these amaretti cookies that were made this morning. And those are those simple, fresh, gluten-free. And then what I'm doing with some of these is I'm zesting just a little bit of dark chocolate on here. Because I look out at this crowd and I say, you know what? These people like wine. And they like chocolate probably too. Because, I don't know, really, that's an easy guess. You know what I mean? I'm a fortune teller, and I'm going to fortune that 9 out of 10 of you like chocolate. And it goes good with peaches and almonds and cream. So,
Well, aren't we lucky to try all this good food and wine here today, folks? It's so great that everyone can come out and remember how fast the tickets sold out. Make sure if you want to come back next year, you get your tickets early. I heard the VIP tent sold out in less than a month after I actually think it was 2 weeks after they put those tickets on sale. So make sure if you liked what you are experiencing, get your tickets for next year as soon as you can. It's really been a great time. I want to thank again Western Colorado Community College because these folks have been out here. They've had several teams out here for most of the day. I really want to thank Sammy and Allie, James and Evan, Chef Wayne as well. Thank you all for making this happen. Chef Elizabeth. These are the culinary instructors and their students that are here making this happen for you today and doing these wine pairings and food tastings, and it has been tasty. Wait, is everyone getting some of the polenta now? Or I'm sorry, not polenta, but the risotto. Nice. And so, folks, in a little bit, we're going to have our last cooking demonstration, and that's going to be actually by chef instructor Wayne Smith, and he's going to be giving everyone the instructions on how to cure and smoke salmon. So that might be a really nice little last demo that we're going to do here with Chef Wayne in a little bit as we are winding down, but I hope everyone's enjoying the risotto.
right. All right, I hope that risotto's getting out to everyone and everyone's getting a couple bites out of that. One last quick reminder, so we'll be just glad everyone came out to Palisade for this wine fest and is checking out the tent here. and the support Western Colorado Community College, where I graduated. It was awesome. And everyone's having a great day out there. Thank you, guys.
And so, hey, folks, if you want any more of Chef Joe Shero's cooking, you go check him out at Powderhorn Resort. He is the executive chef there. And next weekend, if you don't want this party to end, they have the Color Weekend, which is a color festival up at Powderhorn. So take a peek. But thank you, Chef Joe. The risotto
always with that
was
same
awesome, and we
process.
appreciate
Yeah,
all the
if I was
commentary
making
around it.
for a lot of people.